Okay, we are here with our first guest, someone who is near and dear to my heart. So excited to have this conversation. Our very first guest of Creators Create, a creativity series, Daniella. So delighted to have you a part of this. So as you know, this whole entire series is about creativity, how we express our creativity, talking a lot about sharing God's glory in a particular way. I think we can all do that in our different ways, but sharing God's glory through our creativity. So I admire how God uses you and how your creative ideas come into being. To see that we do life with each other, so to see that behind the scenes is amazing. So I want the world to know how amazing you are and how amazing God has created you to be. So let's start off with, what would you say makes you a creative person?
I like to say, and a lot of other people have told me, I have a very overactive imagination, and as I've grown, I love that about me. Like, I do get into like artist block often, but then I could just see something and then just a bunch of possibilities just happen, and it's just the best thing. Like, I get out of artist block really quickly because of my overactive imagination, and I'm just definitely not ashamed of it anymore. I just really love that about myself. And I think that's what makes me really creative, is my imagination and my ability to just visualize almost anything and then being able to just put it down on, my iPad or paper or my phone or whatever the case is, just always having ideas. I really feel like that's what makes me really creative,
Yeah, so like, what inspires your ideas?
Anything, like literally anything. Like, I could see, like, my mom could say something and then I just go have like a weird dream about it, or I'd be like, how could I turn that into something cool? Like, or I could see, or like a movie inspires something, or like an anime or a picture or a video game. Literally anything gives me ideas. Like, literally anything gives me ideas, and I have my imagination to thank for that. So
amazing. So tell me about when you actually noticed that it was a thing. When you were younger, you said earlier that you're not ashamed anymore. And I don't even know if you caught that you said that, but you said you're not ashamed anymore. So take me through that journey of when you discovered your creativity, when it kind of could have gotten rocky, and now what it is.
As far back as I can remember was the third grade. Like, I started to really draw and color and do all those things, and I just really loved to do that. And something had happened in the 7th and 8th grade where I got really discouraged to draw. Like, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put down, I'm never going to draw again. But then creativity came in a different way. I was writing a lot. I started to write. And I loved writing. And I just really loved the idea of just putting words and, like, creating stories. So, and then recently, I think around 2019, I had decided to pick up art again and decided to continue my art journey. But then I realized that whole chunk of time that I wasn't drawing, I just needed to be creative. Like, it came in a different way. So creativity is just something that I can tell is clearly in me. And even when I wasn't drawing, I was doing a bit of graphic designs. Like, I was putting together posters, and I just always had this uncanny ability to just, like, I don't know, to just make things. I just always had to, like, be making something. Mm-hmm. So that's how my creativity, like, works, I guess.
And how does it feel to, like, when you were at the point where you picked it back up again and you decided to, like, take it forward and fully embrace your creativity? Like, what was, like, in your mind, what was going on?
At first, like, I had the tendency to compare myself to people who literally had been drawing for years.
Wow.
Like, and then I realized, like, no, you know what? Like, if this is something that I love to do, I'm gonna get better at it over time. And I just gotta keep doing it, and I gotta keep pushing in it. And I think a really important thing to mention is God, because before, when I was kind of like a little lukewarm, I was just creating things. But now I really feel like, now that I'm actually taking my relationship with God like seriously, I've really seen that like, even when I don't want to draw, there's something pushing me to draw. There's now something pushing me to draw, or pushing me to write, or just pushing me to get my hands on something creative. And another thing I feel like is also important to mention is the passion. I feel like a lot of people do things and they just do it because they're good at it. But, like, I'm really rusty. I'm really rusty after not drawing for so long, but I still really love it. And I really got out of the habit of now comparing myself to other people. And it's, it's literally the best feeling.
Yeah, you said something really key earlier when you were talking about the importance of like God and your artistry. And I can totally relate with that because like when I write, I feel like there's moments when I'm writing to just write and I'm like literally have writer's block and I'm like really just trying to push myself to get it done because I'm just not feeling it that day. Then there's days where it just flows so freely, like I can't even stop my hands because they're just like going and I can't stop. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like there's just so much within me that I wanted to pour out. And I got to a point where I was actually frustrated with that because I was like, I don't want to only write on certain days where I feel that way.
Yeah.
I want to write every day. I want to be consistent and stuff like that.
I want consistency, yeah.
Right, but I realized later on that like those resting moments are okay, as you said earlier, because they actually offer up the time to be creative in a different way.
Yeah.
Or just to take it in, like take in life a little bit so that that inspiration can flow again. So yeah, I love that you said that. You create in a specific industry. Tell me about that industry.
So I write and draw. But everything is fiction. So I do fiction. That's my passion. I love to create new things, incorporate things that don't exist, make up things. I love doing that. So that's kind of my lane, my flow of artistry, fiction.
And is it specific to like fiction books or like anime fiction or like what area?
All the above, actually. Like all of that stuff. Like, I don't just like watch anime and read manga. I also read like, storybooks from my childhood. I go back and read those, and I read other books, like young adult novels and all those types of stuff. And like I love to read that stuff too.
And so what do you love about anime and about fiction? I guess they're two different things, but yeah, what would you say you love about those things?
The storylines. But then I realized, like, I really enjoyed the passion. Like, the passion, I really have so much respect and love for the passion that it took to create these storylines.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been such a rise, specifically in the anime world. Tell me a bit about that change, because I know you've been anime from the beginning, right? So now I'm seeing...
I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, now I'm seeing all of a sudden, like, young people younger than I'm sure you and I are like in love with anime and like even people my age and beyond, like 30s, like everybody is obsessed with anime all of a sudden during and after quarantine. So like where did that come from and how do you feel about it?
So the first thing I'm gonna say, my personal philosophy is I think that people were just bored during quarantine and they needed something to pick it up.
Facts.
They needed something to pick up, and then they actually saw that, hey, maybe this actually isn't so bad. Like the characters are cute and the storylines are entertaining and all that kind of stuff, and they actually just needed something to watch and do during quarantine. Like that's my personal philosophy on that. And I also feel like people these days have such easy access to anime. Like there's so many different streaming sites. Even like you see so many like celebrities and like people like that like it as well. First, I was really bitter. Like I was very bitter because I used to get picked on for watching anime and reading manga, especially as a girl, especially as a black girl, actually. That's something to mention. I used to get very picked on for it, but I never let that kill my love for it. Never ever. I never let that kill my love for it. But now I'm starting to realize that I'm starting to embrace the fact that everybody seems to like it now. I was bitter because I thought it was going to become a trend. I didn't want people to just treat it like a trend. I didn't want people to just get into it because everybody else was getting into it. I wanted people to really just get into it and fall in love with it like I love it. That's one of the main reasons why I was so bitter. But now I've really just come to embrace it. And I'm actually kind of glad that it's getting on a kind of like a mainstream level, like sports is mainstream. Like I'm actually glad that it's getting to that point, because it's another topic of interest, it's another topic of interest. It's another way for people to meet people. It's another thing for people to talk about. It's another way to get people together. You know what I mean? I admire that amount of passion and the time and dedication to create a fabulous storyline. So that's the main thing. And I think the second thing that sets anime apart is its uncanny ability to just be itself. Like all the other, I feel like so many cartoons that I used to watch as a kid, they followed a specific formula, but anime is just so random and unpredictable which is what really like sets it apart from like other cartoons. In anime, so much happens in that 20 minutes. Like so much happens in that 20 minutes. Like somebody's whole life happens in that 20 minutes. And I think that's just so, and I just think that their ability to just do that so well, anime's ability to just do that so well is incredible.
Amazing. I want to touch on something you brought up earlier because I think it's super important, and we've had a conversation about this before, about looking at the anime world, and you know what society might have deemed the prime target audience would be, right? I won't say exactly what I think it is, but I'm pretty sure you have an idea of like what society would say. These are the type of people that would watch anime. Growing up, you took a loving to anime, and you said you got teased for it, and you said especially because I was a Black woman. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Growing up, the most mainstream anime at the time for me was Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball is people mostly know it for its fights. And so, you know, fighting was deemed very male. It's a very boyish thing, you know, that type of thing. And like a lot of the girls I knew did not watch anime. And then when I got to middle school, there was like a few other girls that watched it. I even got some girls into watching it. But other than that, people would always ask me, why do you watch it? Like, you know, and even when I would sit with the boys and talk with it, people would talk about me and things like that. And why I mentioned being a Black female is because back in the day, a lot of people used to, like, it's crazy. I don't know if I was the only one. I know my brother can attest to this, but a lot of people just thought that, like, you know, I would watch anime because I like to fight. And it's like, no, like, I watch other shows. The boys would assume that I didn't know as much, and I just watched it because my brothers watched it, and, like, the girls just found it weird.
It's inspiring to see that you've tapped into an industry that not many have tapped into, despite like the pushback. So yeah, man, create. We need to see everything you're making, because yeah, I'm sure there's a whole like group out there that just wants to hear what a Black girl who makes her own stories has to say, what kinds of issues she wants to address. So you know what I mean? So it's like really inspiring to hear that. Can you give us like a 2-minute synopsis of one of your favorite stories that you've created?
I'm gonna give a 2-minute synopsis of one that got people really talking.
Okay.
It's just a story about two people, you know, a couple, and you know, a meddling best friend, and the best friend was just meddling a little too much for the wife's liking. Something had just happened, and it just changed the course of the couple's life. I don't know how to say the rest without giving it away. It's supposed to be an open ending. Like, you're supposed to interpret what happens next. A lot of people assumed it was a cliffhanger, but I didn't write, you know, cliffhangers and open endings are different. Like, I gave you all the facts, now you try to figure out what happens next type thing. So, but that's my style of writing. My style of writing is very tragic. I like writing very tragic things. And it's not because I'm sad or anything, but it's just I find that stuff more interesting. And it gets people more interested.
How do you convey a positive message in your stories? I'm sure there's still silver lining in your story. So how do you kind of convey that in your stories?
I feel like the silver lining in my stories would mostly be, if I can do it, you can do it too type thing. Because, like, obviously the stories that I create are quite sad. They are a bit sad, and the bodies of work, you know, that I feel are the best things I created are quite sad. But I feel like the main message that I want to put out as a creator, is especially as a Black creator, is like, if I can do it, you can 110% do it as well. Always. Like, that's my main message. If you ever feel like you want to just kill off your main characters, like, I mean, if I can do it, you can do that too. Like, you can literally do anything you want.
Shonda Rhimes does it, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's why I really like her.
Yeah.
I really like her. I can say she's definitely a big inspiration, because, like, I really like that style of work. Like, one of my biggest inspirations is Shakespeare, who's probably like the king of tragedy. And I love Shakespeare's work, and I love his ability to still kill people, but still make his story interesting, and still make people want to understand his work.
What message do you want to convey in your stories?
I haven't really decided what kind of message I want to create. I want to convey in my actual story writing, but in my pictures and my drawings, I just kind of want to convey the idea of outside of the boxness. We're gonna call that like if you don't ever feel like you have to stick to one thing. Either it's because you're black or whatever your case is. Like, don't ever feel like you have to stick to one thing. You could literally do whatever it is that you want. Like, that's what I want to always convey in my artwork.
And yeah, last question is just like, how do you intend in your future works and, in the works that you're creating right now to glorify God with your creativity? Or through your creativity?
I'm going to share something really personal. And I don't know how many people are going to listen to this, but hopefully I'm praying next year I will be able to release my webtoon, because I am making a webtoon, which is a webcomic, and I'm actually to put it out there.
This is so exciting.
Yes, I'm very happy. I have a lot of ideas down, and I have a really good storyline down, and I have my characters ready, and I'm ready to put them in boxes. I'm taking classes on how to better perfect them and stuff. I'm taking it very seriously, and hopefully by next summer, around this time next year, my webtoon can come out. And I really hope that in itself glorifies God. Like, the fact that I'm asking him like for direction for this and where to go with this and how to do this. I really hope that this touches somebody, or somebody sees this and they reach out to me. They're like, oh, how did you do this? And I'm able to share, I'm able to share the fact that, it was only God that brought me through this. You mentioned earlier at the beginning of this interview that there are multiple ways to express, God's love and to express the things of God. And I really feel like art is one of the most underrated ways to do that. Like, we have, our singers, and we have our singers, our musicians, and we have our preachers, and we have our evangelists. But what about the people who pick up a paintbrush and just create an image that evokes so much emotion, and then people just want to know what is really behind that image, and the joy of being able to tell somebody it's literally the hand of God that's behind that image. I just want people to the fact that I'm going to be able to tell them that it was God who brought me here, and the fact that maybe might inspire them. That's how I want to kind of glorify God.
That's amazing.
With that
alone will spark a conversation. Yeah. What if they don't know God and you say, hey, it was only by the grace of God that I was able to do this? And then they say, who's God? Who's Jesus?
Yeah.
And then that's already a conversation starter. And you don't even know. We plant the seeds, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know what God can do through that little interaction. So yeah, keep going with that, because I really do think it can change lives just by having one conversation at a time. So yeah, those are all my questions.
Oh, wow.
This was phenomenal. I learned so much. I hope that we will see creativity in a different way, each conversation that we have. So I thank you for being the first fruits, of this series. I think it started amazingly. I couldn't have asked for a better first guest. And yeah, we will be watching you. We will be waiting for your web series?
Yes, it's going to be a webtoon.
Which is
a webcomic series, yeah.
Webcomic series. Okay, perfect. So guys, check it out. When it comes out, we'll make sure that we, push it out there so everybody knows where it is. And Daniella, thank you once again.
No, thank you for having me.